Okay, here we go. Okay, we're good here on YouTube for the YouTube people, and then for those of you who are on Instagram, welcome, welcome. I almost feel like I miss my Facebook family. I should have another screen here, but welcome, guys. So, for those of you who joined the AM Buffalo episode this morning on Channel 7 ABC, just want to say thank you for being a part of that, and all the responses and the feedback that I've gotten has been just remarkably positive. Definitely shout outs to the producers and Emily, who was a part of that show as well. And I felt like I owed it to some of you who viewed that episode or viewed that show to kind of break down a few things that I talked about, right? Because in the 3 minutes or however long the segment was, um, there's only so much that can be covered and that can be addressed, right? And I always feel like I don't want to leave people hanging and not knowing what's on the other side of some of the things that I'd shared or that I'd mentioned. So the context of this back to school time frame, right? And there's always something, generally speaking, to account for when it comes to co-parenting, but I just wanted to address the fact that it is back to school time. And for those who are in the situations where this is a new experience when it comes to co-parenting dynamics, look, there are many sides and combinations of the Rubik's cube. Okay, and what I want to focus on is the self mastery component of the whole process, right? So the previous interview that I did when I talked about designing and building a better you, right, involved three things: design, build, and live a better you. And when it comes to the conditions that surround any situations that are contentious, especially when it comes to caring for our children or parenting, the fundamental thing is self mastery. Because a better you, build a better you shows up, right? A better you shows up. Whether it's how you dress, how you speak, how you communicate, your temperament, you've got to be the best you that shows up in that arrangement, right? Blueprint or no blueprint, you've got to figure out a way to show up better, show up greater, show up more legendary, show up more focused, show up more determined, show up more loving, more compassionate, more patient, right? So there's no escaping that part. And the thing that I wanted to stress is that the process of getting to that place, it can be very cathartic, right? It's not just a matter of like, yeah, well, the kids will figure it out, right? And the other thing I also want to be very, very clear about, this is not the time to get sentimental. Okay? It's the time to really think logically, really think clearly, and hence the power of a blueprint approach. And let me also say this. This is something that's kind of clicking to me, right? As I kind of on the outside in and I'm looking back and seeing these television appearances and realizing the uniqueness of the position that I'm taking, which is that using a particular industry process for constructing and building things that I've been a part of and I've witnessed, the insight of applying those same dynamics, the same principles into human life or our daily life and self-actualization and creating, harmonious building, right? A family, right? That's one of the things we build, right? It's pretty uncommon, right? So I'm either, if not the first, the only, and maybe the best at applying this particular approach to sorting things out when it comes to this particular arena, right? With the co-parenting arrangement. Now, not only that, but overall, if you look at the 24-hour blueprint model and what the fundamental theory is, right? Hypothesis, and it's proven, and it's, the people that have benefited from me coaching and consulting them can tell you, right, is that it's a very clear, methodical approach to looking at situations that take away the emotional, activational pieces, right? So when you're looking at part of the problems we're facing in any given situation is the fact that we get emotional, we get activated, we get pulled in, right? We get teary eyed. And the blueprint process says, hey, look, you can have that, but it's not going to help you here. So what do you want to do? Do you want to get emotional about this? Or would you like some solutions that you can think through that actually will create something that has you laugh and has you enjoy and have tears of joy, right? As opposed to tears of sadness and discouragement, right? So this whole process is unique and it's original and it's an authentic approach to this particular subject as I'm talking about it today, right? After based on the show. So all that to say, um, for clarity, I talked about a particular process. I called it the brain dump. I've got content on my YouTube channel that you can kind of glean and look at, and notice that that process is a process where you have to think through 5 categories of family support, right? Of this new arrangement. So, faith, fellowship, finances, feelings, and fitness. That's your spiritual life, your social life, your financial life, your emotional life, and your physical experience. And that doesn't just include the body, it also includes the environment. Okay? So when it comes to using that brain dump document or that tool or that resource, do you want to really genuinely take the time to talk about and capture the fears, the worries, the anxieties, the concerns, whatever they might be, and put them in that document? Okay? And after you put those items in that document, you now want to then break it down into the 5 kingdoms, as I've talked about it before, right? For those of you who have seen me talk about this, and you break it down into the 5 kingdom categories. Okay, and once you break it down to those 5 kingdom categories, there's now a next step of being able to identify what steps you're going to take based on the things that are most urgent and the most pressing for you to take actions with, right? And then in identifying that, you have to operationalize it by having it in a calendar of some sort. Okay. Now, inside of my program, it's complete, right? We've got the brain dumping exercise. I've got the executive checklist, brain dumping exercise, the sorting pages where you can take what's on the brain dump and put it into those 5 categories as far as they concern you and the family, and you can then take that into the action steps, and then you can take those action steps and put them into the calendar for you to take action. Okay, that's that. So at the end of the day, one thing I want you to know: you're not alone in the battle of trying to sort it out and figure it out. Two, don't make this sort of like an epicenter emotional focus. What I mean by that is there's other kingdoms of life that are happening on any given day, right? There is your social life, there's your spiritual life, your social life, your financial life, your emotional life, your physical well-being life, right? Including the environment. And the social kingdom, right, is where this particular topic of the co-parenting takes place, right? And so although that is a right major emotional point, I want you to think about the overall structure of your life, right? Leveraging the spiritual and the financial and the emotional and the physical and including the environment, right? You want to see how it all comes together. Sometimes when you over dump your energy into one particular kingdom, depending on how you're doing with sorting things out in that kingdom, the other kingdoms suffer, right? And then you doubly judge yourself for now your life falling apart, and then that brings more self-loathing, and that's never a good situation to be in. Okay, so in this particular approach, this particular co-parent blueprint approach, I want you to really you know look at it as something that integrates into your life. Okay, again, this is a subject matter that's like for a particular niche of people, right, that are part of my audience. And it's one of other areas of coaching and consulting that I participate in, right? But at the very least, for those of you who this subject is relevant to, I just want you to know there's some real practical things to take into consideration. The other thing, and I'll close out with this, um, that, again, in the interest of time, you can't necessarily account for, or I didn't get a chance to address, is this. Um, in some cases, you might be in a different emotional place, right, with the other partner or co-parent. And in those cases, this is why, and I do think I mentioned this, you've got to know at the very least what your blueprints are. And you at the very least have the opportunity to submit those blueprints and share those blueprints with the other person to let them know, hey, listen, I get that we may not be on the same wavelength about all the things, but this is where I'm coming from. And wherever you are coming from, if it is coming from a great energy, a great space, right, on a particular point on, the map of the human condition, or the map of consciousness, for those of you who use that particular tool, um, if it's coming from that place, you can stick with that. If it's coming from those, higher emotional and energy places, you can stick with that blueprint, right? So that regardless of whatever is going on over there, you can actually manage your own experience, right? That matters. That's important. That's the better you part, right? The better you has to choose what emotional state to come from. And if you can't come from a high emotional state, then yes, that is an indication that you may need, of course, by the sensibility of it, coaching, guidance, some support, some tools, some resources, right? Caution thing is, no matter what legalities or things that are stipulated or forced, nothing is better than things that you voluntarily want to do in this arrangement, right? The things that you naturally voluntarily feel like are right to do are the things that you're going to enjoy the most doing. And of course, the byproduct being that your children are going to be beneficiaries of that better you is the icing on the cake, right? So it was just on my heart to just at least make sure that this message was kind of 360, right? Versus sometimes not leaving you with partial information. And for those of you who really know either this is relevant for you or relevant for someone that you know. They can reach out to me, right? My information is down below or in the profile here, depending on where you're seeing this. But get the help that you need, right? Get the help that you need, and get supported. Um, and don't get sucked into the drama of this. Okay, it doesn't have to be a dramatic experience, a dramatic or traumatic experience. It can actually be a very liberating and life recentering experience for you. Okay, all right. So that's it. Just wanted to follow up and make sure that we covered all of that. And again, for those of you who are interested in connecting with me and interested in the blueprint, whether it's on this particular subject matter or the other subject matters that you've seen me talk about, either in my videos or more recently in the media, um, you know how to find me. Okay, so go to the description section or in the profile and get a hold of me and let's have a conversation about how to get you to where you need to be.